All right, welcome Harbor Church family and friends, wherever you're tuning in from. If you're taking a lunch break, if it's in the afternoon for some of you Midwest folks, or we got folks out in the Southwest, Texas, everywhere. I'm excited to welcome Tracey Smith with us today. Tracey is a great friend of mine. Really, he may not even know this, has been playing the role of mentor for me for years. I'll occasionally just, I lob questions his way, and have really appreciated his insight and help throughout the years. For some of you that may not know, Tracey and I, we've got sort of a shared history. We both, years ago, were at the same church, Foothills Community Church, and yet we were never there together. Kind of heard about Tracey and learned about him after I came on staff there, and then after he had left and moved on. We've got a lot of the same friends, similar relationships, and some touch points there throughout the years. But Tracey, I want you to just kind of introduce yourself, kind of some of your background, some of your leadership background, church background, and then we'll dive into some good interview. I encourage you guys, if you're just checking in, we're going to be specifically talking about what this crisis has done to us from a grief standpoint. How do we walk through it? What are some different stages? And I really am excited how Tracey's going to share with us some specific details and really ultimately hope that we find in Jesus Christ, but also some practical steps to walk us through some of this crazy experience. Tracey, tell us about yourself and kind of where you're at today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for just allowing me to just hang out with you guys today, and really appreciate anybody that's tuning in. We look forward to, getting to know those guys a little bit better. But Joel, thank you so much for friendship over the years, being able to serve together and just watch. I think both of us have had a front row seat of watching God work in our personal lives, our leadership, and then also our families. So just really excited about that. Love Harbor Church, love what God's doing there. So again, it's an honor to be here. I've been married a little bit over, so right at now, about 28 years. So married my high school sweetheart, Holly, and we are so excited that God blessed us with two children. One actually lives right outside of Denver, so Broomfield, Colorado, and she's a teacher there. So she's experiencing the online thing and all the adjustments there. So it's good to be able to listen and learn from her. But she's 23, she's there, excited about what God's doing in her life. Her name is Brianna. And then I have Braden. He's actually one of those that is supposed to graduate this year. And we got a yard sign yesterday. Congrats, class of 2020. Don't know where to put it, but we are super proud of him and excited for the class of 2020. And just our prayers are with them as they make this adjustment. We know that God has some exciting things for them. He never brings us through something and waste it. So he's going to use that class in a huge way. So we're excited about Braden. And what God has for him. He just selected that he believes that God is leading him to University of Colorado Boulder. So you're going to have two of my kids out there, man. Take care of them.
Oh, we will. You betcha.
Yeah. Church-wise,
we can get him a home-cooked meal. I'll even let him wash some laundry, right? We'll do that.
You better be a big meal. He can eat. So, but
I've got three other boys, so that we understand.
Yeah, you completely understand, way more than I do. So, but it's I've had the journey to be able to be at different churches and serve alongside of churches too. But right now, currently, God has us in Southern California, Orange County, particularly Huntington Beach area. So we love the ocean out here. But we I serve at Mariners Church, and I serve in the role of community life, which covers a lot of different things with groups. And we've had some fun working with groups and how that transitions online. But also work with leadership development and also with our team. And then I work with operations. So looking at our facilities, which we now currently have one of the largest food banks running out of our facility right now in the Orange County area. And so thankful for what God is doing through that and how he's using our team here.
That's so great, man. Again, I saw a picture, right? You guys posted, I think it was today, you had posted earlier, just you got your team out there on a canned food drive. As another mentor of mine said years ago, I know a great idea when I steal it. So we're probably going to steal some of that.
It's yours, man.
just FYI. Tracey, again, for those watching, man, Tracey has a wealth and breadth of experience in leadership contexts. He's served in a variety of churches, also just in the for-profit and nonprofit sector. And I've so appreciated, Tracey, over the years, just your insight, your leadership acumen, some of that stuff that even you've shared in me. For those that don't know some of Harbor's story, Tracey is one of those guys behind the scenes that has poured into me and really is a part of the Harbor Church story. As I've tried to figure out what it means to lead, to be a lead pastor, to help to do this thing. And so again, I just say thanks for that. But Tracey, as I look at you guys, I specifically reached out to you when I thought about the fact that there in Southern California, you guys have been under stay at home for 6 weeks now. You've been under it really the longest, as far as I know, really across the country. And give me an insight what that's looked like. Maybe what have been the different phases as you watch that happen just in your congregation. It's a large congregation, and several thousand, I believe, as Mariners kind of reach there in Southern California. But in many ways, big and small, pastoring is pastoring. Yeah. And just tell me your insight as the things you've seen happen as people have shifted into this new model and these new circumstances.
Yeah, it's been really interesting for all of us because we've never been here before. So our church verse has actually been, God is doing a new thing. And he is definitely doing a new thing. And so as we look at that, I think when we approached it, I was actually flying in from Florida whenever it all kind of, they started the stay at home thing. And it was an adjustment because I started sensing that from the people around at the airport, the LAX airport, that this was going to be a big thing. So the first place I went was to the grocery store, which I'm very grateful I did.
Toilet paper.
I had to get my priorities right. Food first, right? I forgot about the toilet paper. I didn't know that was going to be a big a hit, but I would have invested in that. But that's great. But I think that we've kind of gone through stages. I know at first it was kind of, we didn't know, right? We were just going to go to the end of April and we'll be back to normal. This was just going to be like a little vacation, almost a little bit of excitement people had. Now I'm not belittling that. A lot of people didn't face or haven't faced actual sickness or death or loss like that. And so going into it, we didn't know, right? It was the unknown. And we stepped into it going, it's going to be a little break. We get to spend some time for our families. The people that wanted to work at home, they got to work at home. And so that was the first stage. And from that, we've kind of continued to move into that first stage. And it's longer than we thought. It wasn't what we expected. Our plans have changed, and who in the world wants to work from home anymore? Because we have home, school, family, and we don't know when morning is. We don't know when our AMs and PMs are all together.
So true.
Yeah. We thought we were going to, binge on Netflix, and all those shows are done. But in that season, we're in it now. Like you said, 6 weeks. We actually. As many may have heard the report that there's an increase, 891% increase in the calls that are going to the crisis hotlines.
So I got to pause you there because I want to make sure people hear that.
Yeah.
And actually we recorded a podcast yesterday. It'll drop tomorrow here for those who are following Harbor Church. But we talked about, right, these are those secondary impacts. And that's not to minimize the primary impacts of the health people on the front lines, first responders, those who actually are interacting with the disease, but those secondary impacts are real. And you just said, right, 891% increase in crisis calls.
Yeah, and that's huge. And there's a jump and increase. I'm not going to mention the numbers because there's a couple of different reports out there, but there's been a huge increase in the suicide prevention hotline also. And so what that's telling us is, this is settling in. That there's some things that's happening that moved us into the second stage. But before I jump into that, I really want to touch base on that first stage because that's where a lot of people are. They're tired of being at home. They're not influenced. They haven't lost a job or anything like that. They're still being able to have an income and they're just the norm is a little bit different. So they've just made a slight adjustment, and that's where a good percentage of our people are, and that's where I think some practical things that we've been talking about that would be helpful is just make sure you have a new routine and you live out that routine every single day. So that means you wake up just like you normally do. If you have a job still, you get dressed, you take that shower, you do the things that you need to do, but you go to work. If that's in your living room, I tell my wife, Holly, I said, hey, I'm going to work. I'll see you afterwards. So it's just part of the norm, you know, and just keeping those routines to make sure you go to bed on time, you get enough sleep that you need, you eat well, you do exercise. If you can't get outside, we have a little patio area that we go out and just take in the sunshine, the vitamin D, and those are things that are important. But we also say, that you should be in community too. And so we have our life group that we meet on Tuesday nights, and those are just some of the routines that we have. We eat on time, we try to sleep on time, and we just try to make those adjustments to the new norm for us right now.
Well, and that, man, I appreciate you saying that. Last week, we interviewed a couple here at the church that just shared some of their testimony going through financial crisis. And Jason, he works with Wells Fargo, and he just shared that, he and his wife had both lost their job on the same day.
Wow.
And he said, I had to shift my thinking and go, because you mentioned, right, if you have a job, I would say it's true even if you don't have a job.
Exactly.
Because now you have a new job, and that is to find a job.
Yeah.
Right. Give yourself the same hours. Keep to those rhythms, and it helps you through. But no, right. You got to seize the day. You can't be in your sweats all day long, man. I can't do it.
No. Yeah, and you got to be careful with the refrigerator during this time too.
And then me.
Yeah, I saw something that actually said, the gas budget, that's down to zero. Your entertainment budget, zero. Your food budget's now $1,000 a month or more, so it's the focus.
I didn't realize how much in our house it helped that my kids ate at least one meal a day at a school.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And it makes a bit, and I go, okay, I'm thankful I have a job, but think about families that don't. And that's why we've connected with some of, Parr Elementary here near us. You've got families that are now in even a greater food insecurity situation because they can't even count on that. And that's why that kind of matters. But walk me through, last week we talked a little bit, kind of these three big ideas, kind of three buckets we find ourselves in as we walk through this crisis.
That's kind of the first bucket, just walking through that present stage of where you are. The second stage, I would just say the encouragement in that is to be present. It is a new norm. We need to have our routines. We need to have our schedules. We need to exercise. We need to have a good diet, all of those things. But, we don't need to forget, though, all of this is based upon a foundation of Jesus Christ, right? Our relationship with him. And that's part of our spiritual aspect of this, not just the physical, not just the emotional, but the physical, the spiritual too. And our hope is in Jesus Christ, which, when we go to that second bucket, that's what is crisis. People are experiencing loss. And we talked about this last week with just a great, one of our therapists that we've kind of had communications with, and just talking through this type of crisis. If it's increased, then what are some practical ways to walk through even crisis like that? Every single one of us are experiencing loss in some way or another. And we look at loss as job. Some people have lost loved ones during this time. And some people have lost, just the community that they had, the experience of going out. My son has lost his graduation, as we know our kids, and the activities that they were involved in. Everybody kind of thought too that kids would be okay with this because they have screens all the time, right? But if we look at that, they had screens with their friends. They would text each other while they're sitting by each other. So they had the screen, but what the loss is their friends. Like, they don't gather like that, like they used to, and they don't get to go to the activities and those things. So they've experienced loss, or our children have experienced the loss of a classroom, as they've known it. And so all those things, we've all lost something. In the church world, we've lost the gathering on the weekend. Being able to say hi, do a high five in the lobby, and just being able to sit and worship together and raise our hands and look over and see friends and familiar faces, people we're doing life with. And we're making it work online, but we have loss though. So in that loss, one of the things that she brought out was there is a loss leads to grief, right? And so we're all grieving in this season right now, something. And it's at different levels, but in that bucket, you look at that, and she mentioned anticipatory grief. And I was like, oh, wait right there. Talk about that a little bit. And I have never heard of that before. But how many people and how many times have we said, man, I can't wait till it gets back to normal? I'm ready for this to be all over with. That anticipatory grief is we are looking toward the future of something better, but in this, we're experiencing the grief. And so we're taking that grief with us into the future, and it continues to compound. How do you deal with that, though? Uh, well, we have to admit where we are, accept it, and then be able to look at the grief and go, you know what, we need somebody greater than us through this, and we need to walk through that process. Now, there's a different level of grief that will push us into a different type of help, and we'll go to that in a minute. But I'm not a therapist. I want to can make sure I say this. This is from a pastor's viewpoint and talking to people all around. Is how to deal with that grief, though. We have to unpack it, admit it, accept it, and then I always say, who are you doing the journey with right now? That's where groups are huge. If you are not in a life group or a community group or some type of support group right now, I say jump into it. I know you guys offer that. And then the weekend services, be in those type of environments and make sure that you have people around you that you can have the open and honest conversations that you trust and respect, and you're able to share that, hey, I'm hurting right now and it's okay to hurt. I'm crying right now. It's okay to cry. And those people will love you and walk the journey with you. And no matter what, you know that you're being cared for. Reach out to somebody. And then if you're in a good situation right now, you reach out to other people. It's always helpful to do that. And let's do this thing together. That's what I've loved to see during this time, is people just getting out of their norms, seeing the 71-year-old leading a small group online. Walking them through it has been just phenomenal. Going, I just appreciate that you're taking the leap to do that and reach out and care for your people that are in your group.
Well, we've seen that here as well. I've said, right, those are some of those also secondary benefits. Is I've never seen an easier time to join a life group than right now. It matters more now than ever, and it's easy. And so we love that. Shout out to, man, all my Julie and I have an amazing life group of people. We've got one of our gals, Lisa Chase, is even watching right now. Hey, Lisa, out there. Right, it's been power, and we're adding people every week because it matters that we stay connected in this. I had this image the other day. We watched Titanic again. I'm that guy. I can't. And there's a great scene at the end where it's sinking, right, and the lifeboats are out there. And they don't have enough lifeboats for the people, right? The crisis is bigger than the number of lifeboats. And I think it's the character of Mary Brown or one of the other stewards or whatever. He says, let's lash the boats together. And that's how we survive. Yeah. And I love that image, right? This is a storm that all of us are facing. Yeah. Our boats are all a little bit different than everybody's, but how we get through it is we lash them together. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Walk us through. Again, sorry for interrupting there, Tracey. Take us through some more of that stuff that you're seeing there.
Yeah, I think that's been, the key for us, especially during that time. We've been having fun with life groups too. And if you have any ideas, man, we're sharing ideas like crazy, going, what does it look like? In Acts 2:42, here's the crazy thing about it. That's where the church started, was in the homes, right? They didn't have technology like this. And we've been kind of sent to our rooms per se to kind of sit and kind of rethink this thing. But it's been really cool to see people get creative with that. And I reflected the other day that this is like the first church. I know we're in different living rooms. We're not able to gather right now in the same living room, but we kind of invite people into it. And we are carrying on what they started so many years ago, 2,000 years ago. I reflect back on that, but I also wondered, as we went through that transition, I knew it was going to be uncomfortable for some to make it from gathering in person to into their living rooms on a screen. That was going to be a huge jump for people, but we're almost 100% there now to have our groups all in there. But it's really cool to think back about the early church and think about what they would think about our church today. We got pushed out of our buildings. Our gathering spaces that we were in, we got pushed out of the norm into what was, we don't have persecution like they had, but we have a crisis like they had. And in that, I think of, what are they thinking about us, the church of today? And I just say, man, I could picture some of the early, like Paul, just beaming with a smile going, guys, It was a difficult situation, but you did it. Job well done. And you continued the community that they started a long time ago. And I'm like, I love to think of that because that's the bigger picture of the church. And as we kind of go through this, we experience the things, and many people that are hurting right now, we don't want to do it alone. And they gave us that example so many years ago. They faced all kinds of difficulties and they did it. And here we are 2000 plus years later, and we're doing it. And I just say, I'm cheering on the church going, and all the life group leaders, you are heroes to us, and we're so grateful for you.
Yep, that's huge. And those that are considering, whether you're at Mariners or whether you're at Harbor Church, man, we need more.
Yeah, absolutely.
More life group leaders, unlike maybe we've ever needed them.
Yep.
The groups are growing, and people need, and they're desperate for connection. It may look a different way. The method looks different, but boy, what it means is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Joel, you kind of brought up something, and as we're staying in this middle stage here for a minute, I kind of look at it too. You know, crisis reveals things, right? We have been able to see that crisis reveals character. And man, we've seen our frontline people, our healthcare workers, and all of those. Have you noticed? And I know we all noticed just their faithfulness to their job and to the mission that they've given their lives to. Our nurses, doctors, healthcare workers, our frontline police officers, our fire department, our grocery store workers, our truck drivers. I saw a truck driver the other day where he was in front of me, and just something came up in me to ride beside him, and I know he probably thought, man, what weirdo is that? With my little mask on, I just waved to him and just gave him a thumbs up, and I'm so excited that crisis will reveal your character. And so many people have just taken that, and even our pastors have been on the front lines of still ministering to people. Our outreach, our volunteers, they're still there. And this has taken their leadership to another level. We've grown through it. And so I just say, I'm not excited about the crisis at all. My heart goes out for that, and not belittling that again. But I am excited about the character that it's brought out of many people on the front lines. The other thing that it reveals, crisis, it just reveals opportunity for the church. Joel, I've sat with so many churches, and they said 5 years from now, we want an online service. And they had all these goals about technology. 5 years went in just to 2 weeks.
Oh my word, that was compressed.
It was. Yep. And we're still trying to navigate it, right?
Sure. Every week, right? Every day, practically.
Yeah, so it's exciting to see that, and just the opportunity of food pantries and just a service, and people, like you said, there's some people right now that may have thought about being one of those life group leaders you mentioned, and today is that opportunity. We say, hey, it's your opportunity. Crisis has opened up a door for you to be a part of that. So I don't know what opportunities you guys are facing. I'm sure there's some of the same ones we are. But if somebody's listening right now, think of the opportunities that God has given to you, and then take that step. This is your new norm for today. And this is today. Be very present in it. Don't lose the anticipatory side of things. We know that that's coming, but I think this is a good opportunity, or a good season for you to take that opportunity. The other thing is, I'm going to go back to the negative side of character. Crisis also reveals character on the negative side too. And that will take us sometimes into the next stage. And I know that sometimes we experience that ultimate, I say the opposite of hope is actually despair. And when we lose that hope, there's a process we go through. And some of the hope, if we lose it, we have loss, right? And then the loss turns to really the grief, and the grief will actually move into another stage of disillusionment. We start going, what's going on here? And we start losing that hope. It's a progression we go through. It doesn't really happen most of the time in one moment. It's a progression, especially now. 6 weeks of being in confinement, basically. And then being around, we start, like I like the way you say it, we start bouncing into people when we're disillusioned, and those that are closest to us, the ones we love. But if we do not deal with it, then we get to despair. Despair is the opposite of hope. And I don't know where people are on that kind of flow chart, or whatever you call that progression there. Wherever it is, you have to stop and know right now, where am I in that? Am I in this stage of hope? Am I in this stage of loss, of grief? And then how you deal with that, whatever stage you're in, is very important. If you have gotten to despair, we say that that's the opposite of hope. Man, there are ways that we can help. There's professionals that are within our churches, that are in our communities. And Joel, I'm going to let you, I'm going to tell them to go back to you in your area as far as the resources for that, because I'm not familiar with them. But I know you know some, and I know that you've been in contact with those people. But it's okay to reach out for help during this time, and make sure you do that. I know there's sometimes a stigma that we're on our own. We can do it. That survival thing comes up. Don't do it alone, because we can't do it alone. No matter where you are in those different buckets, we can't do it alone. We need each other. So if you get to that, before you get to that despair, reach out to somebody and get help. That would be professional help. And make sure that you're walking that journey, and you're basically just opening up your life and to the season that people can come in and help.
Yeah, we've got a great, I know Mariners does, but Harbor as well. If you just go to harborchurch.life, and you can see a tab there for prayer. And that's a good first step, right? You give us information. You go, this is what I'm wrestling with. We have got connections with several different professional therapists, counselors, crisis people here locally. The last thing I want you to do, right, is and I've seen this, Tracey, here at Harbor and with other churches that I've talked to. They did a study in Italy, and I've seen this repeated in some of my work in refugee care around the world, is you can do just about anything for a month. Yeah. Right? You can gut through it. You can man up. You can whatever, woman up, cowboy, whatever we're going to say, right? I can get my adrenaline will push me through for about a month. But once it gets, and you can almost track this, sociologists can track this, psychologists, once you get beyond a month, the wheels start to come off a little bit. If you haven't figured out how to fill back into yourself and connected to somebody else, and we're entering that season, right? Yeah. We've moved beyond the month, and now some of our typical coping mechanisms are breaking down, and it takes time to create new ones.
Mm-hmm. Well, I believe, one of the things, just take crisis itself. When something changes in our life, just like it has, I think sometimes, I know for myself, I've noticed, and with people that I've worked with, especially leaders, I've noticed that we go into a spin. Whatever happens, we hit that spin. In our life, man, we're just like, we're spinning, literally spinning, and we don't know exactly what to do. And I've noticed that we find ourselves trying to stop the spin. So there are things that we reach out to and we try to grab onto. And during the season, it may be alcohol that people, that's the common mechanism. That's the way they cope, and they reach in, they grab that. Now, in moderation, it's okay. But when you go into the extreme side and that becomes your life, and that's you're escaping the reality of things, then it's probably not going to be healthy for you. So be careful of what you grab onto. Sometimes it's relationship. It's hard for relationship right now, but we struggle with that when we go into maybe it's an unhealthy relationship or whatever that is. In the normal world, that would be kind of like an affair, or put us into a situation where we grab onto because we feel like we're in control of it and we want that back again.
And I see that pornography, right?
Pornography now is that, yeah.
Dial right into pornography. You've told me I need to stay at home and that I should be in front of a computer.
Yep.
Right? We're seeing those kind of things happening.
Yeah, and we were able to kind of put boundaries around that, but now it's like wide open. That's right. So in it's an escape mechanism. And then sometimes we go into work. We pour ourselves into work. We're at home. One of the spouses taking care of, if you have young children at home, they're trying to take care of that and deal with it and trying to do the school. I really say, hey, no matter, all of us have a job, all of us. It may look a little bit different right now, but whether we should all be helping each other behind our walls. Don't pour yourself into, I know I have to be careful with this because I can work, and especially.
Oh man, I'm guilty of this. My word. I will just work, right? It's a problem. So I'm going to fix it, work it, and I'll work 12, 13 hours a day.
And we can catch ourselves working 15 because we get on the computer or the phone. And then by the end of the day, we look up and we go, what just happened? And, you know, our spouses over there, they're just worn out because they've been doing their job, whatever that is, and plus everything else. I just say, just be careful with that. Don't throw yourself into that. Do your job and do it well, but be careful not to overextend yourself where it's hurting yourself, but also those people that are around you. I think the spin though, and that kind of leads me into kind of what I would just like to wrap up, uh, is our faith. That's what we grab onto. Jesus Christ, our relationship with him is the answer to helping us make it through this season. All of those practical things are great, and there's good things that we need to be a part of. But if you're missing your relationship with Jesus Christ, that's our foundation. He is the hope of the world. I get it. A lot of people say the church is the hope of the world. I actually say be very careful with that, because Jesus is the hope of the world.
Amen. Amen.
And we just follow him, and we're the church, we're his children, and all those, the hands and feet of him. So our job is not necessarily to connect their hands to us, even the church during this time. That's not our role. We're not supposed to connect their hands to us. We will let people down. Oh, our job, our role in all of this is to connect their hands to God, because he will never let them down. When they're in despair, they may reach out and call us. They may join up with a group. They may do whatever, and we may be able to help them. But I do know one thing that's certain during all this time: Jesus Christ will never fail us. He will never let us down. He's still in control. He's still on the throne. He still resurrect, even though we didn't get to celebrate Easter like we wanted to. He still had the power to do that. So he has the power to get us through what we're going through right now. Even though the church has left the building, I love that aspect of it. We are actively being the hands and feet of Jesus now in our community. And so with that, I just say, whatever you're spinning, if you're in that situation, make sure that you reach out and you grab onto Jesus Christ. That's going to be the sure foundation that will stop the spinning in our life. It's a process. It's a process, but that's the starting point. And then through that, I think that we can realize that that relationship brings so much hope that we've never had. I think there's two things to look at. There's hope and there's reality. Did you know I was reading the story the other day, and then one of our leaders kind of brought it up in a newsletter, and it was the story of Jonah. I'm sorry, Noah. And when you think of Noah, I guess we could go to Jonah too. He went into a little isolation too. But have you ever thought about that story of Noah during this season? You know, Noah left a world that he knew. It was the norm for him. God had asked him to do something. He was out there building an ark, but he had friends. He was in community. His kids were in community with people. They were doing life with other people. There was a global situation, a crisis that happened. God said, go into isolation, go into the boat, take your family, and he sealed the door. They were in confinement into an ark for so long. Can you imagine some of the same things that they went through, the hopelessness, the grief because of what they lost, the norms that they knew?
Right. The wonder, when is this ever going to end?
Yeah. Do we have enough food?
Do we have enough food? Right. All those things. When my kids are always there. Oh my word. When do they leave?
And who brought all these animals? And it was a small space for as much stuff as they had that they carried with them. But you know, there was a day that it came to an end. And when it did, God opened the door. And they walked out into a new world. They had to deal with some things because life was a lot different for them. It was a new world. But you know who was with them all through all of it? They experienced a lot of loss, but they had a lot of hope. And God brought peace. I love the olive branch that, you know, that he brought to them represents peace. And I think as we look at that story, for me, it was just a good reminder to go, you know, people have gone through hard things. They've gone through worldwide crisis before. Many people before us, they made it through. There is coming a day where this will be a different day. And we have peace that God will offer us. And through prayer, like you said, through doing community, through being involved in service, I think those things are just part of making or helping us get through this. And there's hope and reality. The reality is, yes, we were in a tough situation. That's reality. But don't forget the hope, because the hope is not like, I hope this happens. It's the confidence that we have in Jesus Christ to know that he is right there with us. And I love that verse. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I'm with you all the way. And so he can bring us peace even in the midst of what we're experiencing right now.
Oh, man. He becomes that anchor point foundation
Yeah.
in a world where so many things are shifting.
Yeah.
He is the same yesterday, today, and always.
Yeah.
And we can count on that. Man, thank you so much for sharing that, Tracey. Here's a wrap up, and I know you got more stuff to get to. How can we pray for you, for your wife, your son, your community there? What is something we can pray for?
Yeah, prayer is a big part of, I think it brought us back to that, right? In a lot of different ways. And I appreciate you asking that. I continually, our family's adjusting to the new norm. We have our own, our own set of things that we're navigating as a family, just like anybody else. And so I just pray for, us to continually see God through all of it as a family, and that we will experience it and be present. For me, really being present is a big deal, because I just the other day, we had so much going on, Easter weekend, but it was a whole lot of other responsibilities that were at it, not complaining, just its opportunity as our crisis has brought those. And so looking at that, I woke up kind of not actually waking up, but from the work that I was doing. And I went, wow, what did I miss today? And my wife is good at being present, and I'm so grateful for her. And she's a good reminder. I say, Holly and the Holy Spirit work hand in hand together, and really just kind of help, kind of keep me focused.
My wife has a similar job description.
I don't know if our wives ever say that about us, but
probably true.
But yeah. I do know that it's been grateful for her just to redirect me and just say, hey, you need to really be present in the midst of all this too. I know you got a lot to do. You're helping people, and I love to do that. And ministry is a good thing, but you do need to be present too. And it's been a good reminder for me. Then that's one thing I'd pray, that I would be present with just the people that I'm around, and my family. And I just really appreciate that, and just continued health. But my prayer is too, man, it's the same. I'm praying for those people that are they've experienced loss. My heart goes out to them. I'm praying for all those people that are on the front lines. I'm praying for our leaders that, man, the frontline people that are on the front line, but their families too. Man, the experiences that they're having to go through right now, I just don't want them to feel alone. And if they're listening right now, the world is cheering you on. We are. We can't actually do that, but man, we're high-fiving you virtually. We're cheering you on. So I just want them to know that. But we're also praying for our leadership in our government, but as well as the world, and then also our churches and other places, our communities, our counties, our cities, just because I know they have a lot. This reopen thing is big for them. I couldn't imagine making that decision. We have it for the church, but I just want them to know that we're praying for them. We understand it's a hard decision. They have a lot of voices right now, but I'm just praying the one huge voice that they hear is God, that he will give them peace to know what to do during this time.
Oh, man. Well said. Tracey, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for sharing some wisdom today. Man, appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate what you're doing. And man, we will be praying for Mariners, praying for you guys, but certainly all those different prayer concerns. For those of you guys who've been joining us, again, if you've got a prayer concern, you've got a need, Ryan, our online pastor, he posted the link to where you can find the page there for prayer and submit that. That's in the feed. You can look through that. And if you have a need, boy, reach out. Don't be alone.
Yeah.
Don't be isolated. Let's lash our boats together, get in that life group, stay connected, and know that it is Jesus Christ alone. At the end of the day, I can't tell you what the future holds. I can't tell you exactly how all this is going to play out, but I certainly echo the words of my friend Tracey here. Boy, he is the one thing that will see us through every up and down and everywhere in between. Thank you for reminding us of that, Tracey, and thanks for taking your time to be with us today.
Thank you, Joel, and appreciate it, and appreciate you, man. Praying for you and your family and your church there also, okay?
Thank you, sir. You have a great day.
You too, man.
God bless.
Thank you. God bless you.